Hashtag Eric Clapton Funkos.
Yeah, that would be good. With a pewter grey strat.
Oh, has to be. Gotta be. Gotta be. Gotta be. TikTok time to rock, bro. Good to see you. Looking
Likewise.
forward to spending a couple of a bit of time with you. I know you're busy.
Oh,
We're always busy. But the fact that you wanted to get together and share some of your thoughts and experiences about the premiere last night, brother.
yeah, yeah. It was, it was. What do you call it? It was exciting. It felt like going to watch something for the first time, which obviously the majority of what I saw, I've never really had the privilege of seeing. There was a couple of things I've seen, and the rest of it I haven't seen before, Andrew. So it was a bit of a treat.
Yeah, look, I'm glad you said that because I went with about 7 people and we went, had a look, and it was an interesting conversation afterwards
Mm,
by a couple of my friends who aren't hardcore Clapton fans like you and I and most other people that are associated with this channel, and we'll
yeah,
talk about some of their observations later on. But for me, especially, seeing some of those clips. Wow. I suppose I have to ask you, bro. What are the standout clips from what you can remember?
Well, to be honest with you, from the word go, I was drawn in because of the crossroads with the orchestra. That was phenomenal. I thought that was fantastic. I loved it. I thought, you know, you in let's be honest, a blues song. Why would you think to put an orchestra with it? You wouldn't.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? But because you're Eric Clapton, you can. So why not? And the way that opened with the symphony orchestra playing the outro piece to Layla before he comes out, and then he comes out does Crossroads, and the little lead up to Crossroads, it was like I think I know what he's going to play here, but I wasn't sure, even though I sort of knew what I kind of was like, I don't, is this something? But it was obviously I've never seen that before, so.
No.
Um, I reckon there was probably maybe 30% of it I've seen and 70% I haven't seen, Andrew. But for me, I think I was waiting to see Pretending. I was waiting to see Old Love that they went in there, but there was other gems in there that kind of filled the void. So I was in EC heaven, mate. It was for me. Obviously, the standout would be the second last song with Layla. I love the symphony orchestra with Layla. I think that's fantastic. I've seen that before though, and I guess "Wonderful Tonight" sounded wonderful. It's beautiful. "Holy Mother," I thought that was wonderful, and "Tearing Us Apart." I always love hearing that live. That was fantastic. The 13-piece band is really exciting to watch. But how good was Buddy Guy?
Oh, that's got to be a standout to watch Buddy Guy and those guys in their
Albert Collins
contribution.
was Albert Collins was fantastic too.
Yeah.
But Buddy Guy, just there's something about him as an entertainer, and I think he's not only just a fantastic singer and guitarist, but you put him light and shades above everyone else as an entertainer. He's just sensational. So, um, but I could rattle off all the songs, Andrew, but I think they were the highlights for me. And "Sunshine of Your Love" as well, with the orchestra, because I've seen the other one before. There's two versions of "Sunshine of Your Love" there.
Mm.
I hope I'm not spoiling it for people who haven't seen it, but um, you know,
To, well,
it is
they've
what
already
it
had the
is.
premiere, so it's
Yeah,
all about we're here doing our brief review. My friends really enjoyed the Buddy Guy thing. They thought the entertaining aspect from him and his contribution was genuinely
yeah,
funny and entertaining. and also, the big smile that Clapton had
Oh yeah.
was an interesting thing. We got a couple of cats, and we got Julianne in here as well. G'day, Julianne. Nice to see you. I'll do a quick shout out, bro. We've got Brooks Reed. Hey, brother. I'll let you know. About that. Davey from Cyprus. Good to see you, bro. Another Clapton nut. You've got to come on and do a show with us, Davey. Tim Thomas, good to see you, bro. Phil, awesome. Thanks for hanging out with us. Let us know if you guys have seen the Clapton film, what you think of it. If you haven't seen it, Brad and I are going to recommend that you get out there and see it. It was just fantastic. There's a couple of things I want to sort of share with you, Brad. Obviously, the tracks, some of the gems that we hadn't seen before. And we'll always have that. And this is an interesting point that some of my friends and I were having after. Because like you, I thought we were going to get Pretending and Bad Love. And then I realized we're not going to, because we've already got it on this, haven't we?
Yeah.
So the whole idea with Across 24 Nights was to release some of those hidden gems, Brad. So clearly that's what they've done.
Yeah, 100%. In a roundabout sense, I was glad to hear songs that I didn't really think I'd want to see, like not that I have a problem with them, but like I Shot the Sheriff and Knocking on Heaven's Door, the way he did that with Phil Collins out the front on the hi-hat, and it was really cool. There was a really, really cool energy. But I have to admit, yes, I don't think I've seen Clapton smile that much as when he did with Buddy Guy on stage. So he couldn't wipe the smile off his face. Yeah, that was fantastic. I like how he just obeyed Buddy Guy. Our Buddy Guy summons him over, and he's like, "I'll be there." Yes, yes, mighty one. And the trade-off stuff they did, that was fantastic. I got a real good buzz out of that. I don't know what it was like for you, Andrew. My only thing that I found disappointing was more the cinema. The cinema I saw it, and it was the only one within driving range for me to get to in time to watch it. It wasn't played in a gold class or anything special. It was a standard cinema, and the sound system wasn't great. So
Yeah.
that's the only disappointment for me. But other than that, I over that pretty quickly because I just was satisfied to watch the footage and hear stuff that I'd never heard from that era of Clapton that I love so much. So
yeah,
I got
I
a
agree.
question.
It was the same
I got a
situation
question.
with us too. It was a
Was it?
shitty theatre. Well,
Yeah.
a modern theatre, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. The sound system wasn't as good. I think when I went and watched this was the last concert film thing that I went to see. The sound was much better, Brad.
I'm hoping it's not a reflection on the mix, but I'm not going to judge it from that because the cinema didn't have surround sound. Andrew didn't have very big monitors or anything like that. So I'm putting it down to the fact that maybe they should have put it in a gold class cinema with proper Dolby surround sound, and so you'd capture a little bit more of the bottom end, and the drums would sound bigger and things like that. But again, I had to let that go pretty quickly because otherwise I would have been disappointed all night. But the footage and the performance of the songs, I have to say, the camera work is fantastic. It's great to be able to see multi-camera views of Clapton playing. So, that's going to satisfy a lot of Clapton nuts like us too, Andrew. I'm sure, we can sit with the Blu-rays when we get them. I'm sure we're going to be sitting there and, wearing them out, trying to work out exactly what Clapton's playing properly and things like that, which, to be honest with you, with the 24 Nights release from, back in the day when it came out on DVD, there were sections of the songs that I'm like, how come they're not showing Clapton here? I want to, and they're showing part of, so I'm hoping and praying that when we get the Blu-rays, Andrew, that they're showing like they did last night, camera angles of Clapton playing. So you get to see what he's doing in certain parts of songs.
I'm
You know what I'm
sure they
saying?
will. And I wasn't surprised when they had the close-ups of him playing his guitar because obviously, as Brad said, folks, we get that in the 24 Nights DVD. We get some good close-ups of him playing, which is pretty good. And when you think about it, that was done 30 years ago, and they kind of take it for granted now, don't they? When they take footage of guitar players at concerts now, they make sure. But there was a whole period of rock and roll history where they didn't do that, and one of the most famous ones is the Cream farewell concert, where there's
Yeah,
hardly any shots of Clapton playing.
I know it's very frustrating. But I've got a question for you, Andrew. I was going to ask a second ago. What were the standout tracks for you, and what was your overall thought when you? All right, I'll answer that one first. What was the standout tracks for you?
Oh, it has to be Buddy Guy. That the Buddy Guy thing with Clapton. I hadn't seen that before. And Holy Mother and Tearing Us Apart, as you said, and watching Layla and the way that it finished with Layla was, just remarkable. I'm looking forward to watching it again. I certainly think it's going to be something that a lot of Clapton nuts are going to talk about. I'm going to watch it in conjunction with this. So who knows, Brad, who knows what they're going to be doing now with the original release? Are they going to be doing that on the original DVD? Will they be re-releasing that as well, bro?
I doubt it. I think all that footage will be in amongst the Blu-ray footage that we're getting, Andrew, because they're stipulating how many tracks there are on the Blu-rays and how many hours there are on the Blu-rays.
Yep.
So let's be honest, they want to sell them. They don't want to sell the old version remastered. They probably want to sell everything they're releasing now. So if you're a huge fan like we are, you're going to go and buy those Blu-ray discs regardless, aren't you? Really, let's be honest. So.
Oh yeah. We sure are.
Yeah.
So thank you for asking me what my tracks were, and the whole thing. The whole thing was great. But those three things, those three tracks in particular. Did you notice? Let's see how good. Did you note? There's two things I want you to think about. Did you notice the height of Clapton's pickups on his Stratocaster? Did you? Man, they were just about touching the strings, bro.
Yes, I noticed that. And obviously, one of the things I was going to bring up is his gear and the variations between the lineups with what he was using, Andrew. You know what I mean? He's not using Soldano on the blues nights.
No,
I thought he
all
was.
Fenders.
Yeah.
All Fenders.
So so that was quite. But I did notice that his pickups were quite high. I noticed his string gauge looking at them because you can see very closely on the big screen. It's definitely not using a very thick string gauge. Andrew he's not doing the Stevie Ray Vaughan thing. He's not doing 13s up to 54 or whatever. He's definitely using 10s or 9s. So that would be my guess on that Strat during those nights. And I noticed the footage of him on the pewter grey Strat. There's two pewter grey Strats he's using. One of them's got a outstanding flame on the neck, and one of them's got a very subtle, like bird's eye, plain neck. I noticed with the two pewter grey Strats, because I always thought he just had a pewter grey one and a black one, Andrew. I didn't realise he had
a couple.
Multiples. Yeah, so he obviously had multiples, I guess. It seemed to be the footage 91 where his hair's a bit shorter, where he's using the pewter grey Strat with the less flame on the neck. And then obviously we're getting geeky here, so why not? But the footage in the end of 91 and into 92, Andrew, the Strat's got a very strong flame in maple neck that looks outstandanding.
Almost looks like it was a little bit dirty on some angles, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like it's. And Clapton never has a dirty fretboard.
Yeah. I want to get a a flame maple neck now. It's like I've got to get one. I might go to Warmouth next or something and order a flame maple neck with the same shape, and maybe just stick it on that.
Yeah, well, let's be fair, ladies and gentlemen. Our we love our Clapton Strats, but the Clapton Strat, he's using the custom shop Clapton Clapton Strats, which
Yeah.
are
Master built. Yeah.
master belts, which are about 10
Yeah.
times the price of that beautiful
Right.
Strat that we've got behind us there, and Brad's got
Yeah.
behind him. Yeah, I noticed
But
that, bro. I noticed the pickup height and obviously those nines. I reckon he's using nines, bro. Um,
yeah.
One other thing, bro, did you notice too? There's no designer carpet on the stage floor. See, those guys are just standing there on the stage floor, bro, where you can see the handles and you can
Yeah.
see the lines between the two different platforms, and it's like, oh, okay. No $50,000 Egyptian rug on that stage, bro.
No. But I did mention I went with my girlfriend and my son, and I mentioned to both of them about the guitar straps. Our that the flashy guitar straps he's got. Are they Versace straps?
Yes, they are.
Yes, I thought so. And
Yes,
his suits and everything that he's wearing, all Versace, and he's very well groomed
he's
for
looking
the Royal.
handsome.
Got the beard, nice. And I was thinking, Andrew, maybe you could, give yourself a nice Eric Clapton, 5 o'clock shadow.
No, those trimming days are gone. But no, thank you, bro. But he certainly looks handsome in those suits. Actually, if you guys subscribe to our channel, if you're watching on a replay, check our community post. I'll take a photo of the Amani straps that's in Chris Gill's book, Six String Stories, because they got sold at the auction, and I forget how much money yeah. As Brad said, they were designed by Mr. Amani. Hey, Quinton,
Yes,
good to see you, bro.
yes. Hey, Quinton. Yeah, the Abani straps are they're very nice, very nice. There's something about. I mean, I've always used the same strap pretty much for the last, I don't know, 15 years, Andrew. Whether a gig or not, I'm using the same strap I've had for 15 years. But there's something quite personal about straps for your guitar. You know what I mean? And now whenever I see Clapton, I just always automatically expect to see those guitar straps because I don't know, and the pewter grey Strat. So I don't know. It's what so when the film started, Andrew, I know it was like a bit of a build up, and they had the symphony orchestra playing
Mm,
the outro to Layla. It was very beautiful, sounded fantastic. What was your thoughts when Clapton first walked out? He started like vamping and playing, and then they led into Crossroads. What was your initial thoughts? Were you blown
very
away?
clever. Very clever. It was very
Yeah.
clever the way that Michael had done that, the way he had orchestrated that
Mm.
seamless transition, from the orchestra into the vamping and then into the band where you can see Nathan East playing, Greg Fillinganes. So that you could the camera focused on them, so you could clearly hear their contribution. Very smart, very
Yeah.
clever.
Yeah. Oh, look, for me that was a highlight too because I hadn't seen that before, and
Nor had I.
obviously it was one of those things where 30 years, Andrew, have been waiting to see this darn footage. Like talk about making your fans wait for it and crave for it. And I mean that was it for me. For me, I thought to myself, why is it taking 30 years to get this footage out, Andrew? Is it because of the amount of footage and the camera angles? Is it because his priorities were not to get this stuff out until now? Or like, what do you think?
Oh, he's a forward-thinking musician. He's always busy doing other projects, So that was always, like a typical musician artist, always looking for the next thing, the next, project to do. We'll come back to that, but I just want to raise and answer the question that Quinton James and Brooks are talking about. Yes, they are lace sensors, and you can see that clearly on the film, can't you, Brad?
Yeah.
It's so
Oh,
close. The camera's so close, you can see where it says lace sensor.
yeah, 100%. Some of the footage is incredible, Andrew. That's what I was mesmerized, like, because it's so, for people who haven't seen it yet, there's footage where it's like a shot where you're seeing pretty much Clapton playing, and then there's a shot real close up on his body of his guitar, or his right hand, or his left hand, or just focused in on both hands, and um, that's gold for any guitar player. But like, even my son and my partner, they're not guitarists, and they were watching it, and they got that excitement out of it as well. So I think it's a bit of a treat. The footage is great. Um, I'm just, to be honest with you, I'm blown away. It's taken 30 years to get this stuff out. That's you know, my whole thing
Well,
about this project is 30 plus years, and then they release it now. It's like, come on, this is so good. It should have been released 20 years ago, Andrew.
hey Robert, I think from what I've picked up from having a conversation over the last 24 hours with Chris, who was on our channel with Brad and I last week, the global thing that happened a couple of years ago forced a lot of artists and musicians into thinking about what they could do moving forward, to have some kind of project to work on. And that made sense when Chris kind of said that to me. That's what he thinks Clapton, and his management team are doing. Okay, so what are we going to do? Okay, so we've got all this footage from 24 nights, blah, blah, blah. Let's release that. So, if that is indeed what happened, bro, fantastic.
Oh,
And
yeah.
maybe there's more because, you know, they were in lockdown over there in the UK 4 or 5 times.
Well, how many hours, Andrew, of footage is it on the release in the box set that's coming out? Do you
Don't
remember
know.
what it said?
No, I can't remember, bro. I'm
It's some
sorry.
astronomical amount of footage.
Hey, Robert.
And you consider the fact that there's multi-camera angles,
Yeah,
so that's a massive edit job. Yeah,
yeah.
that's a full-time job for a few years for any editor. Let's be honest. And how did they
Um,
determine which version of, say, Layla, which version of Tearing Us Apart? Like, how did they determine which version of which they're going to put on? They would have had to watch multiple performances of each night to work out which one they wanted to use, Andrew.
I think what they probably will do, who knows? The Clapton people are coming out now, aren't they? They're releasing stuff on Twitter often, and on Instagram. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody comes out and explains that whole process later on. We saw it with the Beatles, didn't we? Where they came out and explained what Giles Martin was doing. I'm kind of hoping that the person or the group or the team that was responsible for it are going to come out and say, well, this is what we did. Why not?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm. Yeah, well, there's a lot of there's a lot of footage coming out anyway, but if there's more, maybe, if Eric needs to add more money to his bank account, he can release the rest of it.
Well, yeah. Yeah, well, like I say, it was fantastic, and even the footage of the crowd at the Albert Hall. Some of the footage of the crowd at the Albert Hall we've seen in the DVD, folks. But the sheer joy and elation on the fans just sitting there and jumping up and dancing in the aisles. It's like, and it's like, so you're right, bro. So early 1990s, the
Yeah,
fashion that they were wearing. It's, yeah. Oh my gosh, did we look
yeah,
like that back then?
yeah. Did you? I mean, it made me really think about some of the late '80s gigs I've seen of Clapton, and then the transition to the '90s. where he went with the songs and where he went with his sound, it changed a lot, Andrew, from the late 80s to the early 90s. He changed a lot. I mean, all the footage I've seen of Clapton in the 80s, mid 80s, late 80s, and then you put this on across 24 nights, the footage we saw, it's a big contrast in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's
Hey,
not
Anders.
like it's not like just rehashing what he did in the 80s. It's like he reinvented it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, we kind of, yeah, and that fits into the whole theme of what we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks, isn't it, on the show? Because we knew that, but to see it again and be reinforced with that, didn't we? Because
Yeah.
we did the show with the Rock Professor. We knew that Journeyman and that period was probably the point that's setting Clapton up for everything moving forward. In my
Mm.
opinion, I think so. I think this is where it begins with Clapton, bro.
Yeah. And it was a peak period for him performance wise. His voice is sensational. It's probably some of the best singing that I've heard Clapton ever do, this period in his career. His voice
Well,
is primed. He's in a good headspace. Obviously, he's been practicing his vocals. You can tell he's been doing vocal coaching for sure by this point. Which a lot of artists do that. They keep getting training and coaching for their voice, and they when their voice gets more developed as they get older and things like that, they've got to keep working on how to utilize their voice. And it actually sounds like he's got total control of his voice, Andrew, in this
yeah. Yeah,
in
I
this.
agree. I was thinking about the show that we did on Sunday, where we made a comment about Clapton rehearsing for 10 days and then doing that 2 gig set at the Rainbow concert, and
Mm,
and the tone of his voice on some
yeah,
songs and getting better. And I'm thinking, oh, okay. So we kind of thought, okay, so for 10 days versus doing nothing for 2 years
yeah,
singing, we can understand that. And then I
yeah.
realised when I'm sitting down, how many gigs did he do on that 24 nights?
It's, yeah, it
50
was
gigs?
40 something gigs, but
Yeah.
the gig dates when because you see in some of the footage, Andrew, when they're scrolling to the next song, you're seeing some of the gig dates and they're like, 19th, 20, there's 1 day gap, then it's 22, 23, then there's 1 day gap, then it's like 25, 20, like, so he
Yeah.
was working pretty hard. He was
Hey,
working
hey,
pretty hard.
Caleb. Good to see you,
Hey,
bro.
mate.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Hey, mate. Yeah, so he's working pretty hard, like to be gigging that often and performing that often with 1 day rest here and there. That's pretty good, going for a guy. He's in his mid 40s at that point, Andrew, as well. You got to
Early
remember that.
40s. Early
Huh?
40s. Early 40s.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
mid 40s. Yeah. But I mean, what I'm saying is, it's a stellar effort to
Yeah.
keep
Oh,
his
yeah.
voice.
Look. I agree. And he's smoking too back then, folks. And I think in his biography, I think it's his biography where he talks about how his voice changed after he stopped smoking,
Mm,
and it was remarkable, even to his ear.
right. Yeah, I remember that actually. I vaguely remember reading that. Yeah. I mean that's going to happen for any singer because smoking obviously is going to restrict your voice.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, no, fantastic. Overall, I think his playing on guitar, his vocals, his musicianship, outstanding. And it was great to watch the variations between like the 4 piece band, which is rocking. It's fantastic. And then he's got the 13 piece band, which when they did Tearing Us Apart, it was just like, wow, man. And how easily he adapts to whether it's a 4 piece, the 13 piece, a symphony orchestra behind. He just adapts very easily. So um, such such a great sort of contrast and historical piece, I think, Andrew, in Clapton's career.
Well, I think you're right, and Julianne made a point here about a documentary with Sid Barrett and all this information coming through now, and these documentaries and his biography film that came out a couple of years ago. So, all this kind of stuff has to be celebrated, doesn't it, bro? When it comes out and it's released and it's given to us, and we love Van Halen on this show, and we've got Caleb here, and we've got Robert, another Van Halen nut here. The Van Halens just need to look at Led Zeppelin and these other guys, Neil Young, and get their blueprint. It's already been blueprinted before them. Give it, just put it out there, and people will spend their money.
Yeah.
Look at you. Look what you did. As soon as Clapton,
I just threw my wallet at the computer and said, "Take it, take my money."
Yeah. Well, look, I love all the stuff that's coming out. Be it demos, alternate versions, live versions, and packages. If you want to buy it, you buy it. If you don't want to buy it, well, it's a choice you got to make, isn't it, bro?
Yeah. Did you notice one thing I paid very close attention to was where he puts his pickup selector as well, Andrew, in his five-way switch.
Yes.
It's great. He uses that middle position. I know he uses it, but he uses it a lot.
The middle and his neck. Yeah.
Yep. And the two position, the quack. He uses that a bit too. Lay Down Sally was fantastic. The way he was using that tone there was fantastic. I don't know, something about the way he utilizes the Strat with the TBX and the boost, the DB boost. Obviously, you can see him at points grabbing that bottom tone control to push for solos and that. Did you notice that as well, Andrew?
Yeah.
You can see it a lot. And we know that, and we've seen the footage in 24 Nights where he does it and stuff like that. But all this footage I've never seen before. It's great. It's like, oh, there he goes again. Oh, it's like it was all these light bulbs going off. I was going, that's pretty nice. Oh, yeah.
Robert's got an interesting question, and I'm going to say, Robert, I don't know, because in 1990, 91, people weren't interested in the behind-the-scenes stuff like they are now. Social media has given us that magnifying glass into us wanting to be curious about what people are doing before a gig and after a gig and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I don't know. I think the resources would have just been focused on the gig itself. But jeepers, if there's footage of Clapton hanging out having a ciggy and talking to Buddy Guy about the gig, I'd love to see it, Brad.
Oh, yeah. That would be amazing. We don't know. We haven't actually got the Blu-rays yet. There might be little snippets of that stuff. We don't know.
Well, yeah.
It might be. But I have to agree with you, Andrew, in the early 90s, it wasn't, social media's changed the way musicians have to present themselves, because back then it was still that thing of, we only give them the performance and the mystique behind what's going on here, where now everyone wants to know what color underwear you're wearing while you're tuning your guitar. It's weird. Yeah. It's a different world.
That's more important than the gig itself now.
Imagine Led Zeppelin, if they were relevant now, they wouldn't have coped, because they didn't want to do this stuff, and they were kept out of the public eye unless they're on stage. Peter Grant did that. So, it's a weird world we live in now. Everyone wants to know every little detail, and I do too. Like, I'm guilty of it. There's sometimes with certain bands I'm like, I'd love to see all the sound checks and the talking and the gear rundowns and stuff like that. If there was any, I'd love to see that.
Oh, hands down, and it wouldn't it be nice to have Michael Kamen sit down and talk to Eric and go, talk about how, the orchestra played well, and, or Clapton talk about some mistakes that went on.
Yeah. Or, the variations in gear and how he, for the orchestra, he had to turn down pretty soft so he wasn't too loud for the orchestra in comparison to playing in a 13-piece band. I'm sure the volumes were way different, Andrew.
One last thing that I want to sort of throw at you
Yeah.
before we wind up, because I'm just looking at the time, bro, because I know that you and I got a few things we got to do. But
Yep.
one of my friends said to me, and I was thinking it. Just because he said it doesn't mean I wasn't thinking it,
Yeah.
But he said, when the White Room and at the Albert Hall, and it was just a white light, boom, boom, that came on. And he said, what's really interesting now is that you've got such a variation in lighting now at the Albert Hall, or indeed any concert that you go to now. They make a big deal of lighting, because we were talking about the 70th anniversary gig that Clapton did at Albert Hall, and they've lighting up the Albert Hall, and it's a remarkable piece of footage how they've done that.
Yeah.
So, bro, in 30 years, we just went from white lights to a red light to kaleidoscope effects now.
Technology's obviously caught up, and the venue would have well and truly updated their PA and lighting 100%. I mean, it's amazing you can play small venues now in Melbourne, and they have fantastic lighting shows that are not massive lighting rigs.
Yeah.
Um,
Or controlled with your iPad.
Yes, and and things have certainly changed a lot in the 30 years. But look, I'll take a white light any day if it means a white and on and off light just to watch Clapton back in the 90s and 91, 92. I think it's, I love all eras of Clapton, but for me, I think it's his heyday, Andrew.
What one of my other friends said, well, yeah, we'll take the white lights because you remember the farewell concert, the cameras going in and out, so,
Yeah.
and you're sitting there and you're getting,
yes, hang on.
yeah. Like, stop, just stop, stop it.
Yeah, that's funny. It's too much, It's like a psychedelic, trip. It's crazy. Yeah.
So Anders says he loves to read and see what happened behind the scenes of all the idols on pedestals from my yeah, we love it too, and that's why we do this show, Anders, because we'll sit here for 2 hours talking about what Clapton did in '67. We love it.
Yeah, I mean, it would be amazing if there was like a little half-hour snippet or segment of all backstage and little gear-related things and things like that. But things have definitely changed. I mean, you look at YouTube has changed a lot of things too, Andrew, because these rig rundowns and things like that artists do now that they would never have done back in the early 90s. Like, do you think you would have ever got really a proper rig rundown of, say, Clapton back on a YouTube thing back then?
Well, he did. He did one kind of thing, didn't he? That's famous, where he talks about his wah-wah pedal and how he plays the woman tone.
Yeah.
And, how he uses his technique. Probably the first ever rig rundown, bro, done by Clapton.
Yeah. I think I was thinking more along the line of Premier Guitar, the way they do it. And
yeah.
Goes in there and they run through every single, like you see Joe Bonamassa ones, you can see that they're geeks and they're diving right into every little detail.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know Clapton's Guitar Tech did one for him in the last few years, but before that, I mean, it would have been amazing to really see this rig run down, say the Soldano rig, and how it's run properly and what Clapton uses the most. And I know we hear it and we know it, but it's good to acknowledge it. It's like all those rig rundowns of on Premier Guitar. you wouldn't have seen something like that, Andrew, of say Eddie Van Halen on the Carnal Knowledge tour. You would never have
No,
seen something like that back then.
no, no, because it wouldn't have been, I think, in my opinion, been interesting for the mass market. But you're right. It's interesting now how things have completely changed. Yeah. To the point now where people want to know, as you say,
Mm.
your string gauge. How you know?
I always find it quite a humorous thing, Andrew, when you see even people jump on Instagram Live and they start playing, and the first question that pops up is, "What string gauge do you use?" I'm like, "What does it matter?" Really, I get it, but it's strange. It's
Yeah.
very strange to me. It's the first thing that they'll ask one of their heroes, "What string gauge do you use?" Like, I'd be like, I don't know. I don't know. I think differently. Maybe I don't know.
Awesome. Brooks, I just noticed a comment that you made earlier that you're in deployment in the Middle East. So be safe, bro. Be safe
Mm.
in your service. I wasn't aware of that, but yeah, be safe. And when you're free, when you're capable, when you want to jump on and do a show, I know you've mentioned it that you'd love to do something with Brad and I and the Rock Professor. We'll
Yeah,
we'll do something. So keep that up your sleeve.
yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah,
Um, bro, I'm going to give you the last word, and I'm going to probably sign off with you. Do you want to go through and say goodbye to everybody, and then
yeah.
and then you can do your last word? What do you reckon?
Sounds good, Andrew. That sounds good. I want to thank everyone for jumping on with us. We just wanted to do a little rehash and a little catch up after seeing the brilliant Across 24 Nights. So we've got Brooks Reed. Thank you for joining us. Phil Byers, Tim Thomas. I'm not sure who this is. It's his Facebook user. So thank you
That's
for
Davey.
joining us. Oh, Davey. Thank you, Davey,
Yep.
for joining us. It doesn't show up, but it's weird. Um, Julie and Nimbak, thank you for joining us. We've got Quentin James. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Just going through. Robert Ranford, thank you, sir, for joining us. Andrew Allo, Anders Arlo, sorry for mispronouncing that, my mistake. Thank you for joining us. Caleb Nerd Halen, thank you for joining us. Giannis Halberg, I think I said to you before, but thank you everyone else. If I've missed you, but I think I've got everyone in the chat there. Anyone else is watching, thanks for joining us. And please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Help us get to 10,000 subscribers. We're not really pushing for it at the moment, but we'd love to get that number up to 10,000 subscribers. It'd be sensational. So, and get out and see
Yeah.
Across 24 Nights if it's still available to see in your time zone. If not, I'm not sure if they're going to do any more screenings of it or what, Andrew. I'm not sure.
Well, it won't be the last time we'll be talking about this package. Brad's got a package, so come in. I've got one.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing a show on that, and then obviously our thoughts and impressions on hearing and seeing those things. Because as Brad said earlier on, this is a big deal. This is a big deal for Clapton. For music fans.
Yeah, 100%. So, and thanks, Andrew, for catching up and going through this wonderful film.
I couldn't think of anybody else who I would have loved to have done a review with, bro.
Thank you,
I
brother.
couldn't have thought of anybody else.
Oh, thanks, mate. I appreciate that. That's just because both of us own pewter grey strats. Yeah, that's why.
So we got two shows coming up, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a Ranking the Tracks, a 10 Years After album with the Rock Professor. He's leading that. And I have to admit, I've never heard that album before in my life. I've listened to it a few times, so that'll be interesting. And then we've got a show, Brad, as well, lined up, haven't we?
Yes, we are catching up with Art Menezes from Brazil. He's in Brazilian artist who's in LA. If you don't know who he is, a blues rock, psychedelic rock artist. Amazing, amazing artist, performer, great singer, great guitar player. He's got a new song out at the moment, and he's a social media friend, so it's going to be really cool to catch up with him. He's an amazing performer, Andrew. So I'm really looking forward to that.
That's Sunday our time, isn't it?
Sunday. Yep.
Yeah.
So if you just go to our YouTube channel, you'll see a show card popping up soon for Sunday here in Australia, New Zealand. It'll be Saturday afternoon in LA around 4 p.m. in LA. So if that helps anyone over in America that wants to jump on.
Yeah, at the moment I've just got that edited as a special guest, so later this evening I'll get that when I get the information off Brad, and then maybe a show card for him, and we'll do a proper show card so that we can, and we got to get that, bro, off him so that we can plaster that all over social media. So
yeah, he asked for my email address, and he hasn't sent it yet, Andrew. So I'll chase him.
Otherwise, we'll just have to go and steal one off of social media.
Yeah, we'll do something. Even if it's a temporary one and we change it later or something, Andrew. Yeah.
Awesome. No, I'm looking forward to that, bro. So thank you again, Brad. Thanks, bro, for jumping on and spending a couple of minutes sharing your thoughts. Always interesting, always in depth as well. Even though it's a brief time period, we'll be back. We're out of here.
Yeah. Take care, guys.
Right. Make sure we push the right button.
Bye.
Yeah, I'm going to play this one. Okay. Watch this one. This is an oldie. This is an oldie but a goodie, folks. It's completely unrelated to Eric Clapton.
Now it's time for Brad's Tech and Tone Tips.
Good old days, yeah.
All right, here we go. We'll play this one. This is. Hang around. I'm going to play this, and then we haven't done this one for a while. Don't go. I'm getting all nostalgic now. All right, we're out of here. Bye-bye.
Bye.